On the world consciousness update for where we are, he says we're 50-50, but we're struggling with integrating our individual belief systems in our households and families. What we could do is to shift more into our personal sovereignty and include, honor, and respect others' individual belief systems. For instance, he says, I'll give you an example. For instance, we think that true spirituality relates to something that should be, New Agers think it should be done individually and never in a church, and they're against religion. We need to understand that for some people, for where they are, that source awakens them through a religion, and that's okay as well. And for people who are deeply religious, that's to also understand from the alternative perspective that religion, people aren't always going to find it there, right? So we're still in this place of not fully honoring each other's belief systems in religion and spirituality. So that's kind of what, like, we're 50-50, but we're holding like a big line, like between our opposing belief systems. So what we're doing, right? What we're doing, and this is just how the brain works, so it would be difficult for us not to do this. In the 50% of the collective that's still in fear, they're afraid of what those in love have to offer. But people who are all the way, or 50%, people who are 50% in love are also projecting that into the fear over here, but pushing it, very much like pushing it into fear-based people. When what we need to do is we have this huge wall. It's like the Great Wall of China when we do that. And that wall between us gets thicker and thicker and thicker. And it's very thick right now. So what we need to do is basically just hold each other's hands. Just stand here on the other side of that line and hold each other's hands through what we're experiencing. Honor each other's sovereignty and what we believe. It's a tough time to be a healer. It's a tough time to be a teacher. It's a tough time for anyone who wants to put love into the fear. It's a great time for people who are in fear because they are more receptive to love, primarily because their bodies and minds are just in such a state of dysfunction and pain that they're willing to try anything. That's where we stand in our consciousness update. Those who are in fear are so done, so tired that they need teachers. We have more teachers, more healers, more awake people than we ever had before. And he says we still think awake means being multisensory. So we have developed a lot more super senses, more third eyesight, more mystical experiences from our senses. But with that said, we think that is what spirituality is, that is what source is, that is what connection means. And it was only a tool. It doesn't have anything to do with connection. And what are you going to do when we go more than 50-50, those senses toned down so that we can become more relatable? Those with the senses, we need to become more relatable to those who don't have any. So what happens is we stop having mystical experiences and everything goes silent and dry, and we become more contemplative. During that dry spell, we're kind of in the middle, and then we start relating to people who still have fear without judging them. Not relating so that we can make them like us, but just relating so we can just go, oh my goodness, how close can I be? How close off can I be? Is Eli okay? All right. More so about that, because we've replaced the sacred so much, whether it be in our cultural conditions and systems. We've replaced it in so many ways. We don't really have a foundation for a language system to communicate, not even awaken people, because we've replaced everything with kind of neutralized, uncharged energy. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just neutralized and uncharged. So because we were afraid of the word God, we replaced it with source. And then we became afraid of the word source and we replaced it with consciousness. And who even knows, what means what anymore? Because since the nuclear age, we've been making replacements and replacements. When we don't like something, we go, well, it would have a higher energy and vibration if we called it this. But not everybody's on that page, which segregates us, right? It segregates us. So he wants you to be aware of where you are, where each person stands in their belief system. He called me out just as equally as he would anyone else, because at the time when he was really attempting to get through to me, I was very anti-New Age. I was like, I don't understand these replacements. And, I'm sitting here with like Mother Teresa Teresa of Avila and St. John of the Cross and all these deep Christian mystics, and then the Eastern mystics and yoga and all this stuff. And she's like, no one understands what you're saying. That's right. And then like no one could relate to where I was, right? Because people have replaced those words. Now, granted, they've replaced them with words I don't understand, that kind of have this neutral, like grounding and chakra clearing, and words that just kind of just fail to impart the original sacredness that we are as a human. So I had to like sit with that and go, oh my goodness, for my soul, what does grounding mean? For my soul, what does chakra clearing mean? For my soul, what does protection and boundaries mean? And then when I did that, it wasn't necessarily about coming up with another word for it. It was about saying, okay, what does it mean to me? What does that feel like? And it felt like going back into the holy dressing room, and putting on a white gown and saying, okay, here you are in your purity. All right. Now just walk out of the dressing room into the world. Do you need a word to do that? Do you need a definition to do that? And that's when Metatron really started talking to me a lot more. And this is where he can talk to anyone, is when you remember that your deepest change that you need to make this year is your connection to your internal soul, to your internal thought system, your internal feelings, your internal language, that your thoughts and your feelings and your soul. And then your external language, which is your words, your body language, your gestures, how you move through the world dictates what karma happens and what you manifest and create according to him. And he said that if each and every person remembers and practices this, then the entire human species will shift powerfully and positively. Right? Right. So we need to understand that remembering our sacred language of the soul is important right now. That's why I came out with that class on September the 4th. It's because he and Yeshua pretty much pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. Right. All right, let's get into your questions.